So, Jason, we're back again.
We are.
Phase 3. We talked in our first conversation about the impact that the built environment has on the well-being of the residents of houses and the users of commercial buildings. And we moved on in our second episode of talking about what building well actually means. And from where we are now, how can we achieve that? The third section of this that I'd be interested in talking about is how we can equip the next generation of people coming into the built environment. As educators at UCEM, clearly this is a subject very close to our hearts.
Yes.
And I know from the work that you do in terms of mentoring and supporting new entrants into the industry, it's something you're very passionate about as well.
Absolutely.
One of our earlier episodes, we talked with Ashley, the Vice-Chancellor at UCEM, about a little bit about this, and his view was very firmly that it's all down to the 17-year-olds, that it's down to the talent that we can attract into the industry,
Yes.
And how we can influence them to want to come and make a difference. Do
Yeah.
you think that's fair?
I think that is absolutely fair, and I think that UCEM does that brilliantly. And you know the pioneering of never being stale. I like that about the UCEM and what you offer as well, because I think the stagnation within traditional academia and courses is a killer, because it takes so long through red tape and going through traditional channels and things. And I think with UCEM and the way you operate, I think that's fundamental. It is quick changes that are adapt to the industry, and taking those risks. So I think that Ashley's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Because again, it's almost it's a benefit and a disadvantage in the sense, obviously, in the industry, surveyors, I think the average age worked out about 55. We've got a huge amount of the population of surveyors and the industry kind of professionals that are now almost at retirement age. There's not enough coming through. So I think if we then looked at pioneering and tweaking that education and support system for those 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and we kind of entice them into the industry, I think then we can turn this over a lot quicker than by just going, oh my God, panic stations, we're losing all of our professionals, what do we do? So yeah, I think that will be fundamental.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, it's not just about what we're doing at UCM. I think it's important that across higher education and so on, we're reaching back. I think, working closely with employers, as all universities do these days, it's important that we attract the right talent, that we have a slightly different perception of the built environment industry coming into it. It's not about bricks and mortar. It's actually about sustainable futures for the planet, not just for the individual.
No, 100%. And I think the industry is very good at pigeonholing people and putting people in boxes and saying, right, that's your job and that's where you're going to stay. Don't differ from that. Don't deviate. And I think the inspirational section of what we do as leaders and on kind of trying to pioneer is gaining that intrigue and excitement. We're not just saying, do you want to become a surveyor or do you want to become a quantity surveyor or whatever it is? Here you go, and this is the process, away you go. It's we're here to entice and intrigue and develop that sense of you can make a difference, and you or someone of your generation will make a difference. It's just the difference is a mindset. That's it.
Yeah. And I think that anti-pigeonholing message is quite important. We've talked before about the need to think holistically.
Yes.
Holistically within the industry, holistically outside the industry, about what we're trying to achieve. And to be able to offer someone a career which has quite a broad reach, but also a broad spectrum of occupations, of professions within it. I think that's quite important. You work a lot with young people entering the industry. What do they see as their biggest barriers to progress, do you think?
The biggest barrier from me personally that I've seen is their industry relevant kind of work experience.
Right.
So especially kind of southwest of the country, things like that, where you don't have these big, or you have a lot less of these big organizations that can just come in and say, we can take 20, 30, 40 work experience placements. They're very kind of SMEs, micro businesses where you might take one or two on, if that, because again, we're looking at pigeonholing. We're looking at, we're trying to deal with people that have been in the industry for many years, but they've been pigeonholed. So they're kind of almost scared to step out of that and welcome in new generations. But then also it's about relevant work experience, because what we're trying to get over is people in work experience or apprenticeships feeling like a burden, because you're bringing these people on. You don't want to be in an industry or a company where people just from the outside, you're doing it just to say, oh, I'm helping the industry, but really they're in the corner making tea. And it's like, well, that's just disengaging. And I think that's when kind of people drop off of the educational kind of journey and they disengage with the industry. So it doesn't matter how well the academic course is, if those work experience placements are not there and not structured accordingly, so they give kind of almost they complement the academic content and inspire where the academic content may be restricted, then I think that it's not doing what it should be, and I think that is the real risk.
Okay. And do you find there is an expectation gap between how they think it will be coming into the profession and how it actually is?
Yeah. I think that's there's a lot of. I mean, it is obviously a lot of hard work. You've really got to put your effort in, but I think that there's not enough people in the industry that are allowing people's creativity and imagination and aspirations to aspire to what they could be. I think they kind of, again, try and pigeonhole them or try and clip their wings. So I think it's a role reversal. I think the industry needs to embrace that more and encourage it out of people, because these are young people that are essentially, they can do anything in their life. And I think, by coming into the industry, that's not a restriction. That's not sort of, you will give them the tools and the building blocks to be able to do their job, because, however much we say we don't want to pigeonhole people, we still need QSs, we still need project managers, we still need surveyors, we still need people to facilitate those jobs. But it's then, how can you complement that in other ways and better better the industry with your understanding? Because I'm a surveyor, I go into residential and commercial houses, but I'm not a QS. So obviously someone who may be a quantity surveyor or a civil engineer, they'll have a different mindset, they'll come from a different approach, and it's that collaboration between that kind of 16 to 18-year-old new generations coming up through. If we train them to do their day job, as it were, but also inspire them to actually collaborate with each other from their own individual backgrounds, to then bring the answer and the solutions for the future.
Yeah, so that each can understand the other's needs,
Yes.
but also their perspectives on the process. And do you think that will help? So, as that generation moves through, do you think that will help with end-to-end accountability? We talked in a previous episode about disconnections from start to finish of the planning, design, and construction process. Do you think this will help if everybody truly understands everybody else's perspective?
I think, it will take time, because obviously these younger generations, it will take time before they become kind of senior positions or own their own businesses. But I think if we're developing and planting those seeds, I think they will flourish. And I think then that collaboration between like-minded individuals becomes a network of very powerful influence, which will be in governance, it will be in building regulations, all the way through to academia. So, by replacing those almost pigeonholed previous generations with like-minded, open and creative individuals that want to do their bit, they don't have to save the world by themselves, but even just contributing or just putting some form of input in makes a massive difference. So I completely agree with that.
Okay. What in the Can you remember what switched you on? What made you passionate about the industry in the first place? Was it work experience? Was it something somebody said in a careers meeting? Or how did you suddenly go, That's for me.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know what a surveyor was, even when I was working, funny enough, in the built environment. So as a letting agent and estate agent, it took me a while of questioning why these people were coming in for picking up keys or arranging access, and me going, what's that about? So even in the industry, it's, it's not really known. But I've come from kind of my father and my grandfather, they were both practically minded, and they were both mechanics, funny enough. So I suppose I've always had that intrigue as to why things happen. So I've always been interested in houses, buildings, and as an estate agent, I was able to look at these through different progressions. So there was kind of this renovation that, funny enough, I did for my dissertation on my master's, which was how to correctly renovate an old sort of period property that's stone. So they actually uncovered years of poor kind of regeneration works to this building, and then they took photos and documented it all, and it fascinated me because it was kind of thinking, well, how can at the time modern methods of construction and materials then be kind of slapped in place and think it was universally acceptable? And then as you kind of skip back and you hack back the layers of the plaster and the render, then you can kind of see where all of these things have happened. And that was the intrigue for me. That was kind of where it started. And plus the fact, personally, my kind of breathing and respiratory issues, I suppose, I'm very sensitive. So if there's any kind of there's too much dust in a room, for example, I will start getting really wheezy. And it was like those, so both the personal and kind of the built environment, I suppose, curiosity led me to going, well, why are these two connected? And that's kind of when I followed that journey.
Yeah. Now, how do you think we could reach back to, I don't know, year 9, year 10, and sort of just start to plant those seeds? What is it, do you think, that would switch the youngest people that we need to talk to into this as a trade?
I mean, to be honest, as I've developed my academy, which is very educational based, but subconsciously educational, because it's not forcing the built environment or surveying and things into young people's minds, but what it is doing is has underlying based on curiosity. So, for example, we could do comic books, we could do sort of stories and things that we're now getting into publication and sort of circulating around primary schools. So, like the adventures of mining, why houses are being swallowed by the ground and things like that. It's all of these types of things that builds curiosity in younger audiences, but then physical events, like, for example, I'm starting to introduce TEDx kids and youth events within the Southwest. So it's then introducing, I suppose, how to utilize or navigate early academia, so primary school, secondary school, and why it's relevant and how it can be relevant and how it shouldn't be taken as restrictive. Because I know some schools, like when I was at school, I had to do things like French. I mean, it's so not my thing at all. And then you're just naturally forced into something you're going to fail at. And that's unfortunately the way young kind of, academia and education works. So it's kind of then revitalizing or nurturing that hope of going, it's okay. This is unfortunately the process we can't change, but it gets a lot better. And this is why. So I think that's the way that we can engage with these young people.
Yeah. And presumably you'd see a role for employers, particularly larger employers, in supporting this and being attractive to young people as a career opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going back to the work experience opportunities, it's about making it as relevant as possible to the course, but also making it as real life as possible with real life scenarios, but without putting any reputation issues or risks on the line. You're not going to be putting a work experience placement in front of a client and telling them to, do your job for you. But what you can do is do that under kind of pretense. So pretend you can make scenarios, you can pretend to be the client, for example, going around, you can give them smaller jobs and build that confidence up within a safe environment. And then, even kind of give them practical things like blog posts, as a learning exercise. But again, you could be saying, right, write this. You found this on site, write it up. We'll put it out, and then that can then go out on, say, your new LinkedIn, which then starts building you. So then you're going above and beyond just giving them a taster of what it's like in the eyes of you and your team. You're actually equipping them with real life kind of tools and building blocks to then go on to do whatever they do.
Yeah. And I'd hate to think that we would do anything at this point which is just about making it look more attractive when it isn't. So there's the other piece after this. How does the industry become more attractive? Not just talk about being more attractive, but actually genuinely become more attractive to young people coming into it for the first time and seeing a future there?
Yeah, I think that really goes down to universities and colleges. That's their responsibility of giving guidance and structure, or not mandatory, but suggested structure and frameworks for employers, for example. So, a lot of employers, they don't think outside the box potentially, and it's very kind of the way they do it is through careers days and stuff, and it's like that's disengaging. Even if there was a surveyor there on my career day, I'll tell you now, I wouldn't be interested because it's the wrong way of engaging. So it's about giving that help and support, and be able to kind of then say, look, this is what you need to do to attract them. And things like the RICS and all the other kind of regulatory bodies, even if it's kind of just introducing fun and engaging things rather than, oh, this is the type of salary you can get, or whatever it may be. It's okay, obviously money can be a great influence, but it's about engaging passion. Why do people want to do this, and why should they care about doing it?
Yeah. And I think one of the, inevitably, we're sitting here doing BE sustainable. So I think sustainability is an important factor there. But genuinely, we find it a lot from particularly the younger applicants coming to UCM. What they're looking for is an ability to influence sustainability, but also to sign up to an industry or at least an employer with genuine sustainability credentials in this space. And some are better than others. And some talk the talk and some walk the walk. What would your advice be to a young person looking to get into the industry who is committed to making the world more sustainable, contributing towards a more sustainable built environment? What are the things they should be watching out for, and what should their demands be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with kind of the morals and the mission statement of the companies you're trying to attract and get employment from, because there's a lot of greenwashing out there where people would just go, oh yeah, we do this, we do carbon offsetting, great, but I fly around in a helicopter. It can just be a money making scheme, and actually kind of finding out that the true nature of the business is actually trying to do what it can to be more sustainable, be better for the environment, and also even down to well-being of staff, etc. It's about the care behind it, and I think trying to attract attention from those types of businesses to then go into. But then vice versa, you could then look at the companies that may not be as sustainable, but then try and change from the inside out, because it's a lot harder said than done, but nothing's impossible. Have ambition about it. I think go in and try and make a statement, and if it doesn't work, at least you're learning then what the issues are firsthand. So then, although it then arms you in a way, if you go in, you could look at it in this way: if you go into somewhere that's already sustainable, yes, you'll be learning some amazing things about what they're doing and how they're doing it, but you're not finding the pitfalls. What you could do is go purposefully into a company that isn't sustainable, learn firsthand what the mentality is, what drives a company like that, and then apply your own kind of sustainability passion, even if you move away from that company afterwards, to go into a company and go, look, this is what we need to do, and this is why I understand that things aren't moving the way they should be. So you can almost learn more from going in the direction away from sustainability and learn why that's happening.
I think it would be a brave soul as a new entrant into an industry, be a brave soul who deliberately chose to work for an employer that was the opposite of what they wanted them to be, thinking, I can change this. I can have an influence. It's a difficult
It
one.
is. And I certainly wouldn't be saying you'd go in and you'd revolutionize a company, but that kind of, I suppose, that kind of dissettling or almost anarchist type of way of thinking, or going against the grain and not just kind of following everyone else, is the way we can make change. Now, you've got to be almost a naive optimist in this world to think like you're going to change anything. But that's the mentality you need to have. And, but also, yes, you are very right. You need to be thinking of the long-term kind of risks associated. You don't want to put yourself into a company that isn't going to be good for you or your career. So it needs to have the risk analysis with it before kind of making these changes.
Yeah. No, I completely understand the sentiment. I'm just trying to picture the individual.
Absolutely.
I think for the majority, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot recently is about equipping, not just educating within a competency framework, within a technical requirement, but actually developing the individual to be a good critical thinker, somebody capable of challenging professionally and negotiating and making change that way. I still think I think that's still difficult, but for the majority. But I think that's the way forward, is to develop those skills rather than, it's not just about the knowledge; it's about the ability to influence change.
I think a natural moral compass is extremely important, because you can teach someone the skills all day long, but if they don't truly have a passion for it, they may know, but they'll often just say, well, I understand, but no, thank you. I'd rather go down the profit market, the profit pathway only, and not worry about anything else. So I think that kind of moral compass within you drives the need to, almost like you have no option, to go, now I'm equipped and I'm starting the ball rolling and I'm becoming more influential. I'm understanding more. I get to speak to more people in the industry and I get to learn more. And it's not the academic side of things that's going to do that for you. It's this persistent passion to feel the need to do what's right.
So we're looking for a passionate, committed anarchist with strong negotiation skills.
Not much to ask.
Passion for change, sustainability. There's a lot of ingredients in there.
Yeah, I think if you've got the personality that you can't sit around, not just in your career, but you just can't sit around and see something that's not right and be okay with being a bystander. I think that's the kind of thing you're looking for. Even if it's behind the scenes, it doesn't have to be all of those traits. You don't have to be as bold and courageous and go and save the world, but just having that little bit of character to go, is just the question, is that right? Or even the good stuff, why does it make it right? Why does this way of thinking, why is it sustainable? Why is it ethical? And, even questioning the good stuff is great. Always be inquisitive.
Yeah. And sometimes it's nudge theory rather than taking a sledgehammer to it. It's just every decision we need to make. Could we just think a little bit more about well-being, more about sustainability,
and it's also understanding, professionals, people in the industry that are making changes have been there for a long time. They have spent a long time grinding and building that career. So actually then to have somebody come in really enthusiastic, like a bouncing puppy, and go, you're wrong, you need to do this, probably won't go down very well.
Probably not.
But no, definitely nudge theory, going, well, how about, I've learned this, why don't we think about this? Or getting their opinion on your thoughts, and then it almost makes it their idea, so without being disrespectful. So
we need to add respectful, professional, aware of the margins, all of those things. It's a broad list.
It is, and that it's difficult to navigate.
No, absolutely. But I think worthwhile doing. I mean, the more we talk about reaching back into the younger people now to inspire the next generation, it does feel like the way forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Okay. Another fascinating topic. Jason, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.